You may or may not have heard the news about the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling of the United States is a totally manufactured crisis. The United States is a country that has a terrible constitution where extremely crucial aspects of how the country operates, they just forgot to mention in the Constitution. So much so that we had to wait until, like the 14th Amendment, or, in a lot of cases, we had to wait until, 19th Amendment, 20th Amendment to get basic things done. That's a whole different story. Anyway, the debt ceiling, apparently it's a crisis that the U.S. started, for some reason. The Democrats, right, what could they have done during the during the time where, I don't know, that they had power? Remember, does anyone know that? Like, fucking 6 months ago, they had power. They had 7 months ago, they had control over Congress, right? They could have done something about the debt ceiling then. No, they decided not to. And apparently Joe Biden could have just said, hey, Kevin McCarthy's talking tough, but I can override you with the Constitution's 14th Amendment. Didn't do that. Instead, Joe Biden decided, what did he decide to do, everybody? To give it all away, just like Mike Bloomberg's money during that Democratic debate. Remember, Mike Bloomberg at the Democratic debate was saying, it's okay that I'm a billionaire because I gave all my money away. Like, that's basically Joe Biden with Social Security, SNAP, and other programs. He's just going to give it all away to the Republicans. Now, again, I saw this coming. Anyone with a brain saw this coming, right? Joe Biden, is he going to do the right thing, or is he going to give Republicans everything that they want? Joe Biden can't resist being a working class villain and giving away everything and more to the Republicans. He just doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't give a shit about you whatsoever. All the pretend hand waving, all of that doesn't matter. So anyway, CNN here has this guy. We're being shown this guy. We're not going to look at this guy, but they're going to tell us what's in the debt ceiling bill, and then this guy is going to be scrolled the fuck away. So after several weeks of tense negotiations, tense negotiations, by the way, is pretty funny. Like, we're supposed to believe that, like, this was like, they were actually like, playing like a fucking 20-dimensional chess match, and like Joe Biden had to get a fucking statin prescription just to be able to get through these fucking meetings, I knew this was a bunch of shit when they said that Joe Biden was having a meeting with Kevin McCarthy up until midnight. Yeah, the same Joe Biden that said that he can't schedule any meetings after 4 o'clock is actually doing late night meetings with Kevin McCarthy. Yeah, okay, I'm sure it's extremely tense. The drama is by no means over. Congressional leaders on both parties have to convince enough of their members to support the agreement, which contains provisions that lawmakers on either side of the aisle don't support. The bill text was released on Sunday evening. So CNN decided, we're going to read the bill and we're going to tell you what's going on here. So thank you, CNN, so that I don't have to read this bill. Let's be honest, I wouldn't have read the bill. So let's see what CNN has to say. The agreement would suspend the debt limit through January 1, 2025. This removes it as a potential issue in the 2024 presidential election. Does it? Like, does it? If the debt ceiling bull is going to be a thing on January 1, 2025, right? I don't know, man. You can say whoever the party who's running to win that election, what are the, the idea, I don't know, man. That's just like, I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to sell us here. Under the deal, non-defense spending would remain relatively flat in fiscal 2024. Does anyone remember this conspiracy theory that was being promoted on right-wing circles and media, that the right was actually the working class heroes and they're going to cut like Ukraine spending or whatever and give it all away to the working class? Well, now we have the opposite. The war industry is getting more money, and whoops, Social Security, food stamps, and so on and so forth are boop. So the exact opposite that Republicans claimed would happen is what's happening. Whoa! Didn't see that one coming. Wow, the adjustments include shifting $20 billion in IRS funding to other non-defense areas and rescinding $30 billion in unobligated COVID-19 relief funding. I love that, by the way. So we declare victory on the pandemic, as the pandemic is now in the worst spot yet. It is actually as bad as it's ever been. It's just you don't hear about it because the media decided it's not important. They would rather you get sick and die, right? So, let's take the money that we just decided not to spend on the pandemic, Remember when we were pretending to care about the pandemic? Yeah, well, they just let all that money sit in the fucking bank. And now we're just going to take that away to do what with? To fill in the gaps on people's Social Security and the IRS funding. Oh, wow. After fiscal 25, there will be no budget caps, according to the official. The House GOP fact sheet says non-defense discretionary spending would be rolled back to fiscal 22 levels, and top-line federal spending limit would be limited to 1% annual growth. Basically what this means is they're trying to, in the future, make it more difficult to expand these things, as well as preventing any big, movement to try to uncap this stuff in the near future, right? So they're trying to say, look, we just fixed it. We fixed it, everyone. No one's going to need to do anything about this for at least 5 to 10 years because we fixed it. It's like, do you remember this bipartisan gun reform thing? Do you remember that fucking song and dance when there was like the school shooting? I forget which one of them. Maybe it was Uvalde. I don't know. Maybe it was the other one after that. Who knows? And then Joe Biden was like, we're going to do this bipartisan gun reform. And then they did bipartisan gun reform. And then they said, we did it, everybody. We did gun reform. And then there were like 38 other mass shootings, 15 other mass shootings in schools. And then everyone's like, well, but they did gun reform. So, I mean, what are you going to do, right? So all it does when they claim that they're fixing these certain things, it's just a way to kick the can so that every time you ask them to actually fix the situation for real, they'll say, oh no, I just fixed it like yesterday. I don't know what you're talking about, man. Protect veterans' medical care. The deal would maintain full funding for veterans' health care and would increase support for the PACT Act's Toxic Exposure Fund. Oh, wow, that's great. Expands work requirements. What is this one, huh? Let's find out. The agreement calls for temporarily broadening of work requirements for certain adults receiving food stamps because that's going to help everybody, right? That's going to help everyone so that less people are getting food stamps. So more people are going to be malnourished, which is going to help them get a job, right? Because we all know getting a job is the easiest when you haven't eaten for 6 weeks. And I'm just like this, again, logic is thrown out the window when you come into a room with Republicans, but Jesus fucking Christ. The deal would also expand exemptions for veterans, people who are homeless, and former foster youth in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So there are exemptions, but again, this is that's the problem with exemptions in any sort of situation, is in order to prove that you're eligible, we need to waste so much money in government bureaucratic garbage just to determine whether or not you're allowed to receive this benefit, right? So again, the exemptions do more harm than good in any case, so claw back some COVID-19 relief funds. The deal would rescind $30 billion in unobligated funds from the COVID-19 relief packages that Congress passed to respond to the pandemic. I love the idea that we're passing bills and there's just $30 billion. Like, we passed a bill, right? We allotted money, and then, there's a pandemic, millions of people died, and we just sat with $30 billion, in some box somewhere. What the fuck? Maybe we could have used that when, millions of people were dying. Hey, maybe we can use it right now because the pandemic didn't end, no matter what the 1984 government wants you to really believe. The pandemic's still here. People still get COVID. People are still dying from COVID. There's $30 billion. Nah, let's do something else with it. Let's fucking throw it into fucking Raytheon stock portfolio. It would retain $5 billion in funding to accelerate the development of COVID-19 vaccines and treatments, and funding for vaccines and treatments for the uninsured. Wow. So $25 billion of the $30 billion is being thrown down a funnel of garbage. But don't worry, everyone. We'll look into another vaccine, maybe. Who knows? Cut IRS funding. The agreement would cancel the total fiscal year 2023 staffing funding request that the House GOP says would go for new IRS agents. Now, why do they want to cut funding to the IRS? The new IRS agents were going to head a division, right, that goes after rich people. Rich people. So basically what they're doing is they're cutting the IRS, which was, by the way, very recently funded to have, again, divisions that go after rich people. Now they're saying, no, you are not allowed to go after rich people. You have to go after mom and dad that own the fucking last fucking grocery store that's owned by a non-corporation on the fucking corner, right? Like, again, the fucking shit that these people are doing. Meanwhile, again, Americans don't give a shit because Americans are fucking stupid, lazy, dumb motherfuckers. They don't give a fuck about any of this. They don't give a fuck at all. They don't give a fuck if someone were to kill their kids. They don't give a fuck if someone wants to kill them. They don't give a fuck if someone's stealing all their money as long as they can scroll 3 more TikToks before bed, right? That's the average American. But again, so now the average American, while they're scrolling through TikToks, are going to have to scroll through audit advertisements for auditing help companies, because that's basically what this is going to give: giant handouts to lawyers that help you when you get audited. So that's a great thing. Restart student loan repayments. Yeah, you know, remember when everyone went and signed a contract? It's called indentured servitude. Some would call it slavery, but we can't call it slavery because the 13th Amendment abandons or outlawed slavery unless you're a prisoner. And keep in mind, we just made everything the black people like against the law so we could throw them in jail. Thanks a lot, Richard Nixon, right? But anyway, so we just turned that into college. Yeah, that's right. Indentured servitude. You go to have the privilege of a bunch of overpaid morons who were bought and paid for by people like Jeffrey Epstein and other billionaires to shovel you full of a bunch of corporate garbage like libertarian economics that are taught in every college in the country. But hey, there's good stuff in college too. And what little good stuff, maybe you could have found it on the internet, but hey, you went to college instead. Now you're an indentured servant for the rest of your life, and they just have like a shitload of fucking like a percentage of your income just gets sent to them until you're like fucking 65 years old. But wait, everyone, the pandemic's silver lining was that, hey, you could maybe spend some money on groceries instead of your fucking debt slavery trap. But now, thanks to Kevin McCarthy and the beautiful Joe Biden administration, you have the privilege of paying your masters a percentage of your paycheck once again, everybody. So that's great. Under the deal, borrowers would have to begin paying back their student loans at the end of the summer, as the Biden administration already announced. According to another source familiar with the debt ceiling talks, the pause has been in effect since the COVID-19 pandemic began. The agreement would maintain Biden's plan to provide up to $20,000 in debt relief for qualifying borrowers. The source said the measure is currently before the Supreme Court, which is expected to rule on it in the coming weeks. By the way, not going to happen. If anyone thinks the court's going to back you up on that, the deal would also continue Biden's income-driven repayment plan. So good news, if you have $4 to your name, you don't have to give $3 to the people that enslaved you. But once you get that $5th, then you're going to have to give $4, right? So again, you can just keep going as the climate shit. They're just, so essentially what happened here is Joe Biden, he gave up and he let the Republicans destroy him. Now you might be thinking, oh, Joe Biden, does he have any shame? How does he feel about this? Well, Joe Biden, when announcing that there was a successful deal, had this to say in response to people wondering whether or not what he had to say to his critics. Let's find out.
Mr. President, what do you say to members of your own party who say you've made too many concessions in this deal?
They'll find I didn't.
What? In case you didn't hear the question, how do you feel about your critics who say you gave them too much?
Mr. President, what do you say to members of your own party who say you've made too many concessions in this deal?
They'll find I didn't.
Well, how do you respond to this? They'll find I didn't. Well, all right, Joe, whatever you say, buddy. I guess all of that shit that I just read didn't actually happen. I guess. He said it was not true. Don't believe your lying eyes, everybody. The Republicans got nothing in the deal where they took everything from them. So, wow, we're really having a great time here in the USA industries. But Jesus fucking goddamn.